And we are live. Welcome everyone to another Mode workshop. I think it's the first time we have a second appearance of the same person. So, Billy, you're special this time. I'm so happy to have you here again. Hello, everyone. My name is Fede. I'm head of DevRel at Mode, and we're here today with Billy Jitsu, DevRel at API3. How are you, Billy? Welcome.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited. Ready for a ton of questions for those that may be listening in right now or like following up later. So I know this is like a new concept for a lot of people to understand. I know our first workshop we had like oracles and like kind of understanding that. This is kind of like the next part of like a bit more advanced. So we did a bigger jump. So excited to see what people think of the workshop, and we'll see. There's a lot of information to dig in.
Yeah, the new concept that Bill is talking about is OEV, so
Mhm.
Oracle Extractable Value, which is the title of this workshop, and we're going to learn about it. I was told I have homework today, so usually I don't participate much in the
Yeah.
workshops, but today I do have a job, I think.
Yes.
We'll see. All
Yeah.
improvised, all live stream, so I hope I don't mess it up.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
we hope you
great.
do because that's real like live coding and real life everything. It's there's always nice to make mistakes so that we're all human. But yeah, I just wanted to see like to show how easy it is. And I just lost my window on a live stream. There we go. I'm back. and,
Great.
and just show like, things happen and not everything's perfect. And that we're human, right? Like so that's how it's just gonna work.
The live feedback is always the best because you can see exactly where people click, where they're going, what they're thinking, what are their
Mhm.
questions, it's raw.
Yeah,
So I hope it's going to be very valuable feedback.
definitely.
But yeah, without further ado, whenever you're ready to start, we can get going.
Let's go ahead and throw the screen out again for anybody that has questions, comments, or anything. Just throw them out there. If you have a questions for that, just let me know. We can stop and go. We're gonna take like the full hour, probably go a little bit over, just in case for any questions. But I'm just gonna go ahead and get started so we can get into the code and everything. So, we are API3. For those that don't know us, we are a first-party Oracle system that basically brings price feeds off chain and brings them on chain for your DeFi needs, for borrow lendings, perpetuals, or anytime you might need a actual off chain price and bring that data on chain. So we have three services that we provide. We have Chain API, which is the ability to bring any off-chain API and then bring it on-chain with the AirNode system. So like if you're running your own REST API, there is a free open source tool that we have. It's called Chain API that you can use to basically bring your own real-world asset data and bring that on-chain. DAPIs, which we did in the first workshop, is basically what we just said is the price feeds that we bring on chain. It's constantly updated with a push Oracle. And then today's subject is the OEV network. What is OEV, right? Oracle Extractable Value. Allows users to bid for the ability to update the price. Basically, it's like an Oracle fast lane. So I am Billy. Everybody knows me as Billy Jitsu on the X Twitter way. I am your developer relations. So if you have questions about OEV Network, price feeds, or anything on API3, you can always follow me on the socials, or you can always go to our Discord, which will have a link a little bit later. But if you want to see what my shenanigans are up to, if we're in a conference, go ahead and throw a follow. Okay, so for those that are catching up for the first time, we did a previous workshop of the fundamentals of API3, how to get a price feed into your smart contract, how to use the API3 market to, basically look up the chain, look up the fee that you need, and then just do it without asking any permission. You can just do it freely on your own. We also showed you how to do an adapter if your code base is using a different Oracle, how you don't have to refactor your code and then, just use the API3 oracles. That is in workshop 1. So if you did miss that one, you can always go back on the Mode YouTube channel and check that on there. Today's workshop is on Oracle Extractable Value, basically a deeper understanding of how push and pull oracles work, introduction to the OEV network. Why does there need to be a separate network for such a thing? What is the point of it? And then we're going to learn how to actually update a price feed on mainnet, right? So we're going to actually do a bid on the OEV network. We're going to win that bid, and we're going to update the price feed oracle. This is a multi-workshop series. That's why I'm back again, right? I don't like to have one and done. I like to teach things that are way out of scope, not just what API3 does, but other things to like teach a skill. So our third workshop, which will be coming up at some point in the future is you're actually going to learn how to deploy a borrow lending dApp. We have a fork version of Aave with a built-in CLI tool. It is really easy to deploy your own borrow lending dApp. So you're going to be able to learn to be able to do that. And then you're going to learn how to liquidate positions using the OEV network. So you're going to monitor a position. You're going to see how much profit you can make. And then you're going to do a bid on the OEV network, which was going to cover today. You're going to update that price, and then you're going to run a liquidation. You're basically becoming a searcher. And then on the fourth workshop, flash loans, right? So, you see opportunities, you want to liquidate, you don't have $1 million in your wallet offhand. Well, you can borrow it. You can borrow it from a borrow lending platform, borrow it for a short time in a single block, perform your flash loan, pay back the loan, swap some things on the decks, and then keep the profit, right? And that way you don't have to have a lot of risk of your own money. And so these are all skills that you would need to become a searcher. So on the end of the day, the whole point is make some money. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk about today's subject, which is update price feed using the OEV network. All right, so workshop breakdowns. Here's the key learning points for the workshop is like, where is the value going, right? Oracle extractable value. Where is that value part? How is value being lost on dApps? What's the current flow of like MEV? What's the current meta, right? And then the most important part is why I'm here today is update a price feed on the OEV network. So we're going to bid for the right to update that in the fast lane. And then we're going to actually execute a price with something called a multi-call. There's a lot of skills that you need to learn. They're not too horrible, but when you're coming in blind, it's a little bit tough. So hence the point of the workshop today. So what is Oracle extractable value? And if you have any questions, go ahead and throw it out there. So just so you know off the top of head, price change on assets every second and a second. If you go to like Binance or Coinbase and you're looking at the ETH price against US dollar, that thing is like moving up and down, left and right, every second on the second, whether it's changing $1, 50 cents, or a penny, right? But because push oracles require a transaction every time it happens something on chain, that costs a transaction fee, right? So it would be basically run us out of business if we were to update every second on the second with every change in price. So consensus overall for most oracles has us updating in certain thresholds and price. So if a price changes within 1% of its original price, then we update it. If you want something a little bit tighter, we have 0.5 or 0.25, right? So Oracle extractable value allows anyone to place a bid to update the price feed at any given time. And so what that means is if it hasn't changed within 1%, like if it hasn't changed within $10, it's only gotten up like $5, you can bid to update it at that very point in time if it benefits you. So what's the extractable value part, right? So here's when we get into like MEV and a situation of why there's actually leaking of value. So let's say there's a Aave position that's liquidable at ETH value 2012, which I did this in the future. We're not that far off. And so for simplicity, let's say ETH is worth $2,000 and the Oracle that we're feeding our DEX with, or our borrow lending dApp with, has a 1% price update. So every time it changes on chain, it changes at $20 at this point. So it either updates at 2020 or 1980, right? And so we're looking on CoinGecko, we're looking at different prices, and we see that ETH is rising, right? It went from 2000, now it's 2005, now it's 2012, now it's 2019, right? And so we theoretically can liquidate this position, make a little bit of money at 2012. But if we look on chain and we're ready to liquidate, we see that we can't liquidate, right? ETH price is at 2019, but the Oracle has not updated the price feed because it hasn't reached the 1% threshold. It will only update on chain until it's at 2020. So if it never does reach 2020, then that Oracle never happens and we never had the opportunity to liquidate, right? So let's say it does. And so at 2020, the price hits, that Oracle transaction has to happen first. And then everybody that's doing searcher becomes an MEV battle of bribery payments, right? Whoever is the first one gets to do the liquidation. So how much is it worth for someone to do a liquidation? Well, it depends the profit, right? So if I can make $10,000 profit, how much am I willing to pay to, be first? Some people have paid up to, $9,500 in a sense to make that extra $500. And so most of the profit that goes anywhere goes to the validator itself, right? So it just goes to the validator. I paid this $9,500, goes to the validator. The dApp has to pay a certain percentage for me to be incentivized to do so to keep the platform healthy. And usually that's about 5 or 10%. So every time there's a liquidation, the DApp is actually losing 5 to 10% for the rewards. So TVL keeps getting lower and lower and lower. So every time we have a change in the market, we basically lose 5% every time because there's liquidations. So this is an actual deviation range, and I'm going to test out my draw on screen and see how well this works. I'm going to connect. This will be real time on here. Let's see. Boom. So I'm going to be able to draw on screen. So basically, what we happen is we had our price point here at. Oh, let me open this up.
I was gonna ask you a little recap or a little
Yes.
question.
Yes.
So to see if I'm understanding basically. So there is this opportunity to liquidate a position
Yep.
when Ethereum reaches 2020 was your example, right?
2012.
Um, oh,
2012.
2012. Okay,
Yeah.
great. But that will only be reflected on chain if the price feed gets updated, right? Which
Correct.
only happens, depends on the frequency you've decided. In this case, 1% deviation range,
Hmm.
which it has not reached that. So the on-chain price would still be 2000, right?
Correct.
Until we reach 1%. So
Correct.
what you're saying here is like, as a DApp, I'm seeing an opportunity to liquidate a position correctly because the price actually has reached the liquidation point.
Hmm.
But now, since the price has not been updated, I'm offering like a reward, or I'm saying, hey, I'm offering this money to update the price right now to like override the default 1% deviation, so I can claim this liquidation before the rest of the people, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great,
So yeah.
awesome.
I mean, just the recap is like, okay, the last update was on $2,000, right? So based on the calculations, 1%, $20. We know that the price can move up and down, up and down, up and down all day long, but it doesn't reflect. If I check the price on chain on the Aave protocol, it's still going to say $2,000, even if it's 2019 and 99 cents everywhere, like right there. It does not happen. So that first transaction that has to happen is this 2020 update, and then once the 2020 update happens, then we can do it all and then run the transactions and everything. So that pretty much the general flow. I want you to visually see that price change, right? So even though we're ready to go, or our mouth is watering for that profit, doesn't happen until we actually update that price. So let me go ahead and switch down. And then so this is the MEV flow. Let me minimize this. So actually, let me just take to the top. So the searcher basically is paying that gas fee to be first, right? It's paying that 1 ETH validator. So I'm just using 1 ETH as an example. I'm willing to pay 1 ETH more so I can be first, right? And so the validator says, okay, your transaction goes first in this block. And so push me, borrow lending DApp has to pay out the bonus, right? So they have to give me my thing on discount. And so they lose 5% TVL, right? Aftermath of this whole thing. So this is basically how MEV works is the validator takes 1 ETH profit, the searcher whatever the liquidation bonus is minus 1 ETH. So let's say I made $500 or $10 or depending on the liquidation amount, and the bar lending DApp gets nothing minus 5% TVL, right? Because they had to pay out that bonus fee from the actual like deposits. That's the current flow. Everything good with that so far?
Yep. I'll
Perfect.
I'll
Okay.
I'll stay here on stage to
Okay.
answer them. I'm right
Okay.
here paying attention. Great.
Yeah. So how does OEV aim to help with this issue, right? So like what's the whole point of OEV is searchers could bid to update the price feed through the OEV network. So instead of having to wait for 2020, if they see that the price feed is above their liquidation or at their liquidation point, they can bid to say, hey, I want to be able to pull this Oracle down at this current price. If they win the bid, they get a signature that allows them to update the price feed. And then that signature is bulked with a liquidation transaction using multi-call contract to do multiple transactions on the same call. And this is very, very important right here, just in case, because when you think of layer twos, there's only a single sequencers, right? Ethereum mainnet has multiple validators across, so it's decentralized. But when you look at layer twos, most of them have a single sequencer, and you can't theoretically bribe the sequencer to put your transaction first. A lot of searchers will maybe do their, get the same server as the AWS server where the sequencer is, so the thing goes like milliseconds faster. But theoretically, you just can't. So it becomes a competition of milliseconds. But with this, you get a signature that allows you to update the Oracle before it's supposed to, within the threshold. And so now you don't have to worry about where you are in the block because you can multi-call it, update the Oracle, and at the same time do the liquidation. That way, the liquidation happens, and you can kind of theoretically do MEV on training wheels on a layer 2, right? The key difference is that whatever you were willing to bid on the OEV network, instead of that going to the validator, up to like 80-90% goes back to the DApp. So whatever we were going to bid, let's say that 1 ETH, right? Now you're splitting it with API3, and that's going back to the DApp. So instead of losing the 5%, 10% TVL, now you're getting something back based on the liquidation of whatever somebody was willing to pay for that right to update the Oracle. So far making sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But wait, because it like my head is like making connections and thinking
Yeah.
all stuff. Because like yeah, if you're not aware, again, layer twos right now, most of them, we have like one sequencer, right? They're not decentralized, so
Yeah.
you cannot bribe the network or like pay for like getting before others. That's what like usually MEV fighting is on Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
So what this is bringing to the table is something completely new, and it's a new kind of market mechanic that will allow people to compete. And what you're saying is we don't have to pay or like higher fees or get faster or bribe anyone to get added to the block first than
Mhm.
others, but rather we will pay to get the price of the oracle updated, so we know that we'll pay and the conditions will update, so we can instantly execute that. That is the difference between both. One is, hey, the price has changed for everyone. We'll just have to kill each other to try and reach first.
Yeah.
And this is more like, we know the conditions are met off chain. So
Mhm.
let's modify that on chain with a little bit of a bribe, which is a good type of bribe in this case.
Yeah.
And let's all share this value and recapture that value that would have been lost, um, if that makes sense.
Yes. That's
It
that's
takes
perfect.
it's not that easy because you need a lot of context. So if you're on
Yeah.
the other side and you're taking a while, it's fine. Rewatch this whole thing.
Mhm.
Go study layer twos as well. Remember that both of us are really into this stuff and all the time, trying to solve these problems. So this is a very original way of solving MEV on layer twos, to be honest, which
Yeah.
is something that, yeah, still popping new things.
There's a lot of
Awesome.
charts here. There's a lot of flow
Yeah.
charts in this whole thing. So yeah. So this basically is the high level view of the Oracle extractable value flow. So like if we scroll back just a bit here, let me just go back and let me just move this mouse. You'll see that the MEV flow is a little bit easier, right? It's only like a 3-step, and then I come back here and it's like, hey, what happened, right? But let me explain it to you really quick, and it'll make more sense, right? So you are the searcher starting here at this point right here, right? And so we see an opportunity. We did their calculations already. We want to create a bid. So we're going to go ahead and bid on the OEV network. Hey, you know, I would love to bid whatever I need to update the price at whatever it is, right? The thing is, you have to put a little bit of skin in the game. So what we do is we have people put a little ETH on the OEV network. If they don't do what they need to do, that stake gets slashed, right? Basically. So if they win and they don't follow, play nice, then they're going to slash their ETH. So it keeps everybody honest, right? You need some kind of things to keep people honest. Otherwise, you get spam, right? So let's say they win that special signature and that thing comes back. It's like, okay, you won the bid, you have the opportunity, right? What they're going to do as a searcher is they're going to go ahead and send that bid amount, the actual bid amount, to the chain, so that can be reserved for the DApp. And then they're going to send out a basically price feed update to update that oracle and the same block, right? The sequencer is going to take that multi-call example and then say, okay, we're going to go ahead and update the price feed because you have the permission of the signature, and then you're going to go ahead and do the liquidation, right? And then that money, that value comes back, and then you get your liquidation price win. So kind of pretty straightforward. Once you think about it, there's just this one little extra step in the beginning where you have to set the bid and get the signature back, and then you execute on your level. The difference is the aftermath is the searcher, again, the profits minus the bid amount. So whatever they were willing to bribe the validator, whatever they were willing to auction off in the OEV network, that is a negated cost, and then they keep the profits, right? API3 server holds the bid balance, right? So when you send the value, again, like if I'm bidding 1 ETH on the OEV network, I only need to use 0.1 ETH. You only need 10% of your billing value on the OEV network. We don't want the liquidity all on the OEV network. We want the liquidity on the chain that you're trying to do the liquidations on, right? So then you would send the 1 ETH to the API3 server. And then so the bar lending DApp has to pay out the liquidation fee. That's 5% TVL lost, but they get their claim of the share on the API3 server that gets distributed to the DApp. So I'm just going to put D for DApp. So they get that share later on there, so they can do whatever they need with it, right? So that's kind of like a newfound value for them. They can do different things with that. They can increase better APRs because this is money they weren't getting before. They were just losing it before. Better APRs, or they can fund public goods, or they can lower liquidation penalties, so they can go more degen. It's up to the DApp how they want to move forward with that. But this is basically changing the game a little bit of like, well, now we're getting something for people willing to do liquidations.
And my question may be a little dumb, but it would be, who are the searchers? Like who's playing the role of the searcher?
That's you and me, basically.
You and
That's
me.
anybody watching the workshop, anybody that wants to do liquidations. That's the anime waifu guys on Twitter that are talking about random things. That's the everyday person that's willing to do the liquidations. Like, it's open to anybody. And the thing about MEV is it's very PvP, right? This is still very PvP. Everybody wants to be
Yeah.
first. But there are multiple chains right now. And so a lot of people aren't focusing where the most liquidity is or where the most apps are. So everybody's fighting on mainnet. But there's a lot of opportunities on L2s for people that are just willing to do. So, like, you don't have to be the best. What I've learned is you don't have to be the best. You just have to be first. So even if your code is not horrible, like not super horrible, if you win the bid, you win the liquidation. That's why I call it MEV on training wheels.
I love it. Love
Yeah.
it. This is actually super interesting, and that chart helped me a lot.
Yeah.
It helps seeing like the step by step and why the sequencer has nothing to do with
Yeah.
with all of this, which is important, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, with all these layer twos coming in, do you guys take a long time to deploy all of this into a new chain, or
It's
is it
we're
easy for you guys?
all price feeds are OEV ready now. So like anything we
Wow.
deploy on, any new price feed is OEV ready. So like any feed is ready to go.
Epic.
Y-
This is for Adam. That
Yeah,
he had a question before starting here. Our head of PD. He was like, "Hey, when is OEV going to be ready for mode?"
it's live.
Right.
We just need apps to use the oracles,
Adam,
and
you're
yeah,
already late. Come on,
yeah,
Adam.
yeah,
Start studying. Get going, and yeah, it's live
yeah,
already. So that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I mean, just another example with the deviation. It's kind of more of a linear, right? So like we were here, right, and then we see it going up and down, and then we do a bid. If it hits 2012, I want that bid to happen. And if they bid it, then we get another price update at 2012 instead of having to wait all the way to 2020. If nobody bids, it's just going to happen anyway, right? The liquidation is going to happen here. There's nothing that breaks the Oracle price or anything. It's basically a fast lane, right? I just wanted to update here because it benefits me. If not, if nobody does anything, or even if the person like that does it gets slashed, the update's going to happen no matter what. So like, it's not like they're breaking anything. They're just making the price feed a little bit more efficient. So instead of having a 1% deviation, we're having like a 0.5% deviation in a sense at that current moment. So it's just anytime there's a bid that makes sense for someone, advantages, like there's an advantage for it, it's just going to be that more efficient. So the price feed gets more efficient by default. So let me go ahead and go
Oh,
back to this. Go ahead.
no, no, no. I just said awesome.
Oh,
That makes it clear. Yeah.
cool. So now that's enough concept in a sense. How do you need to build a searcher bot, right? That's kind of why we're
Nice.
here. Yeah, you can use almost any scripting language that you have. For those that use JavaScript, TypeScript, Ethers, VM, also Python, Rust, backend guys, this is all backend work. Our example today uses Ethers JS and JavaScript. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You will have to deploy your own multi-call contract, and I'll cover that as well. And basically it's the contract for the liquidation contract to call on. You don't need to modify anything on here. It's kind of already ready to go. So you can just literally use it from the fork. So let me cover the liquidation flow. Let me just go ahead and get rid of this thing here. I don't think I need to draw on the screen anymore. If we do, I can, do that later. But here's the liquidation flow top level view, right? So you find an opportunity, right? You calculate the price of the liquidation. For our example, was 2012. Right? Okay, so now we know 2012 is a thing. We place a bid for 2012 on the OEV network. We win that bid. So now we have the signature. We're going to combine that signature price update with our liquidation transaction. We're going to send it to our multi-call contract. Price feed updates, liquidation occurs all in the same call. Profit. Pretty straightforward. Right? That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is what's happening on your local computer, right? So like that's cool and all, and those are great concepts, but how do I get it to work for me? So on your network, right? So here on Mode, I'm watching it. So what I have to do as a searcher is I got to gather all the addresses that have been borrowed. So ever since the deployment of whatever borrow lending app, I need to then basically run an indexer of like, okay, who's deposited and who has borrowed. I need to store these addresses on my local database. Everybody has their own way of doing it. That's why Python, Rust, JavaScript, MongoDB, whatever you use, that's what you're going to use. I'm going to be then monitoring the health factors of all the users out there. I'm like, who's close to like health factor of 1? At 1 for health factor of borrow lending rate, 1 is basically liquidation. So it's letting me know. So if somebody's like at 1.1, 1.025, I know they're close to liquidation. If ETH falls a little bit, or if they're leveraging against it, then if ETH rises in price, I can liquidate. Now I'm storing my opportunities, my immediate opportunities on a list, right? So I'm calculating the liquidation price for all these positions. And so then all those positions I'm going to bid on the OEV network. And then again, if I win, I'm going to combine all my winning auctions for all those prices, run my liquidation transactions. Again, I'm going to put it to my multi-call contract, update the proxy feed price, and then perform my liquidation, right? So here I'm just gathering intel for what I need on my back end. That's kind of like my personal database of users. Okay, bam, now we have a much bigger flow, right? This is the OEV flow of like what's happening and totally. And so it's all going to look familiar as we tie it all together. Is we have our addresses that we borrowed, we have them stored, we're monitoring our health factors across all these different apps, we're storing our opportunities, we have all our calculations of all our price for ETH for this example. So here we're going to set up our bid conditions on the OEV network, right? We place our bid on the auction house contract. We listen for the bid results to say, okay, did we win? Did we lose? In this case, we're going to win. So we receive that winning signature. We're going to bulk all our winning details in these auctions. So basically all the signatures to update whatever we want to do. And then we send it to our multi-call contract, update the proxy feed, perform the liquidation. And then we let the OEV network that we have updated the Oracle. We played nice, don't slash us. And so we can keep using that same ETH over and over again. Yay.
Epic. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess there's a lot of details and stuff and optimizations people can do on like the monitoring of the health factor, on like
Yes.
gathering the addresses. If you want to monitor the top addresses instead of the whole list because you don't care about like small
Yeah.
positions. Yeah, I'm starting to think there's a lot of like things you can optimize here and play
Yes.
around with.
Yes. Okay. So the details about this on the OEV network, again, you only need to deposit 10% of what you're actually willing to bid. Again, the goal is not to get a whole bunch of liquidity on the OEV network. It's bring liquidity on wherever layer 2 you're working on. And then you pay that bill on that network. So if I bid 1 ETH, I'm willing to do 1 ETH to update ETH price on Mode Network. I only need 0.1 ETH maxed on the auction contract in order to place a bid. So, 10%. So if I want to bid 10 ETH, then I need 1 ETH on the OEV network in the auction house contract. You don't pay the fee on the OEV network, but you pay the fee what chain you're going to update the Oracle on. So if I was going to do ETH USD on Mode, I got to pay that fee on Mode. And then basically the fee gets sent over to the API3 server contract, and that controls the price feed and distribution for the dApps. And then the dApps can then withdraw or get an airdrop value to their contract, and they can do whatever they see fit with that newfound money, right? Those are hackathon ideas like, now that we have this new profit, how can we benefit users? How do you convince users to deposit on my dApp? Usually it's APRs, right? So, whatever makes sense. Now that you have this extra money by using API3 oracles, what can we do with this newfound value, right? A little bit more details. Your bid details on the OEV network is basically the address of the transaction center. So when we're bidding something, we're basically saying we're bidding ETH to update ETH USD, and this is the contract that's going to do it on this network, right? So we're usually going to use our multi-call contract to say, hey, it doesn't have to be the same address that you're using your bid with, but you're saying this is the address on this chain that's going to update the smart contract. So if that address is not calling the price feed update, it's going to fail. So that way you can't get front run, right? Because everything's public mempool. So you make sure that with this signature, it's all going to be public data, that you have the rights to do so. And so the multi-call contract allows us to combine the transactions in a single transaction call, right? So the price feed update signature goes first, and then the liquidation transaction goes right after in the same transaction. If you do it in the multi-call with the liquidation first and price update, you're going to fail because the price hasn't updated. And so if you call the update price feed without a multi-call, there's going to be another searcher that's going to, hey, thanks for the bid, thanks for the update, and they're going to front run you, right? So, it's just that's one of those things. All right. So, a lot of talk about ideas and whatnot. For those on the video, here's the link to the example. Fede, I gave you that link with all the other sublinks and everything that has on there because there's a
Yep.
lot of links to reference.
I'm doing what
Yeah,
people should be doing. Get your
yeah,
phone, scan
yeah,
the QR, get the link, send it to you over WhatsApp. Put
yeah.
it, if you have iPhone and MacBook, you know, this feature where you copy in your phone and you can paste in your computer. People go crazy about it. Do
Oh,
that.
oops,
So
sorry.
go to the, yeah,
There for it.
yeah,
All right.
there we go.
So let
Go to the QR. You have it in the link in the description of the YouTube video
yeah,
as well.
let me close this out too. I don't need this in here. But let's get into the code and the script. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to switch it up on you and have you go and share your screen to
Let's
go
do
to the
that.
playground. Yeah.
So let me do that now. Entire screen. I didn't know I had to share my screen, but oh, I'll
Yep.
do it now.
It's okay.
Sorry. Ah,
That's what happens when we
I'm
go
just
live.
clicking it everywhere. Yeah, it's fine. No worries. Let's see. Here's the GitHub repo. There we go. Yeah, I have no way of showing my screen without like showing the whole thing, which is fine. There we go. Let's do it here. I'm in the GitHub.
So
I'm
on
just
the
listening to you,
OEV,
so I'm not seeing you. Let's
the
see.
second link from the bottom, OEV playground, right? Go down. Oh, go back.
My bad. My
That's the
bad.
bridge. Go down. Second one, second to last link. Oh, go up.
Which one are you saying?
Go left. Right
Playground?
there. Yep. There we go. That's the
Great.
playground. So, and this current iteration of the auction house, we have this playground for people to play with. On the
Mm-hmm.
next version, it may not exist anymore, but this is just so someone can get the idea. So it takes you through a wizard of how OEV works, right? So you've already bridged on the bridge that has a
I,
link.
I wanted to say that to people listening. I just knew that I had to had some balance on the OEV network, so I
Yeah,
just bridged a little bit. That's all I did. I went to the bridge, I bridged. That was pretty easy from Mode, and yeah, that's it.
cool.
Sorry, from Ethereum mainnet. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll see that the next step that's ready to go is the deposit on there on the
Yep.
next tab. So when you click on that, you basically want to deposit a certain amount in the auction house contract. So in order to do bids, you have to deposit in the auction house contract. So we know that you can do your slashing and whatnot. So what we're going to do is just deposit your balance on the bridge, which was I think
Okay.
0.01 ETH.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's this one. So I should just
Yep.
do the
Copy and paste
same
that in there.
this amount. Okay. See,
Yeah.
insufficient balance. Is
Yeah.
this
Do a
okay?
0.09 because you have to pay for a little bit of gas.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Smart. Good tip. First thing
Yeah.
that we need to know. Yeah. There we go. Pretty cheap.
Yep.
Perfect.
Cool. And so once you deposit, now you can actually place bids on certain networks. So, okay, so we
Oh,
have our deposit. So
nice.
go ahead and place the bid. It's super fast. Yeah. So we're going
Oh,
to select mode on our chain because that's the chain we want to do liquidations on. You could type it on the
okay.
top,
Yeah.
but you can scroll
I
down.
know. I know. I'm just scrolling down to see how many chains you have here, and it's quite a few. So yeah,
Yeah.
just checking that. Yeah. Great.
And so we were going to select what data fee we want to update. We're just going to do ETHUSD. That's the most popular
Yeah.
one.
Can I
There
do
we go.
like this, or do I
Right.
have to
Scroll
do?
down.
There
There
we
we go.
go.
Cool.
Here.
And so what we want to bid on is how much ETH. So you're going to do 0.0000. We're going to add another zero on your bid amount. Yeah, and then we'll do
Like
1.
that.
Yeah, that's totally fine
Perfect.
because we're gonna win this because right now we're not fluctuating, so we're gonna win the competition. And so the thing
Right.
is it gonna be less than or equal to or greater than or equal to? So right now we're gonna say that it's gonna be less than, and to guarantee that we win right now, we're gonna say 3,000 because ETH is not over
Okay.
3,000. So
Perfect.
what we would do as a searcher is we would have our calculations of our ETH, and we would know exactly what dollar amount we're gonna
So
liquidation that.
that is my question. So like the game here is also nailing this number and
Mhm.
this one, right?
Yep.
Against like the rest of the network. So you have to bid more than the rest, but also nail down the price, right?
That's based on your calculations, right? And then you have to
Right.
be willing to bid more than the others. The bids are all public. It's not like black box, so you can see other people's bids. So if you really want it, you can check the
Oh,
mempool and then outbid the bid.
right,
Yeah.
right. Well, this is a lot of like market mechanics,
Yeah, yeah.
like it's basically listening to the others and figuring out the best numbers here, and whoever's most optimized, then they'll win. Perfect.
But as OEV is new, you don't have to bid as much. So like you're
I
like
see.
being
Yeah.
first is less
Yeah.
competition is kind of the goal. Yeah.
What people don't get is with new markets, they're not optimal because there's not a lot of competition, and
Right.
not up like not op non-optimal markets give a lot of place for a lot of profit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll just say that.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah.
So basically, we're guaranteeing that we're going to hit this auction within like a few seconds because it's
Mhm.
definitely going to be less than 3,000. So we're going to get our bid to update whatever the current price of ETH is right now. So we're going to go ahead and place that bid.
Great. Let's go.
And so let's get that transaction.
Perfect. 10 cents as well. Very low fees on this. There we go.
And then it looks like we already live. So we're going to go ahead and execute the update. It's super fast. Yeah. And so
Whoa.
we're basically saying that we're updating it on Mode Network. We're doing ETHUSD. You won it. Here's your bid amount. And so now the data feed is going to be updated to 2302. And so we're going to go ahead and switch over to Mode Network. And we're actually going to update the price feed on Mode Network currently right now.
Okay, so I'm reading through this. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'm
oh,
just
it's okay.
checking. So like here are my conditions, right?
Hmm.
This is awarded. This means I won the bid. This
Hmm.
is the exact value of the data feed after we did. We just said like if the price is less than 3,000, update it, and it updated it to the current price. And then the amount that I said in the bid is locked, right?
Yeah.
This
So
gets locked.
you'll
Yeah.
notice it's another zero. Basically, it's locked until we actually report or update.
Oh,
Otherwise, that gets slashed. So if you don't
oh,
update
okay.
it,
This is the 10% you talked about or not?
yes. Yes, this
Okay,
you're gonna get
perfect.
slashed on that, yeah. So
Perfect.
behave and then actually do the update, and it's gonna update to that price feed, yeah. That
Okay,
is the
so
current price feed of what it's at right now, so we're gonna go ahead and execute the update.
perfect.
Let's see, do you have it? Yeah,
Confirm.
Mode's cheap, so you'll be able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it'll actually update the Oracle update. Let me just see if I can get the market here.
I can
And
open
so
up the market if not, if you need as
yeah, I'll
well.
send yeah, and so now you're gonna report back and say, "Hey, I actually did do the update. Don't slash me." And then switch back to the OEV network. Say, hey,
What
I
if
did
I
it. Don't
do
slash me.
more? I have the DAI USD here, but let me see. You're talking about this market, right?
ETH USD.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know. Yeah. ETH USD. Here we go.
And you see
Nice.
that it's 2302.
Perfect. And
That is the
point, yes,
live.
this is it. This is exactly what I did, right?
Yep.
Can I go back? Oh no,
Don't
my
do that.
bid.
Yeah, just make sure you pay the bit. But yeah, that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great.
switch
Yeah,
back to OEV
that's me. So for
and
people watching, this is like the market. I'll do a small comment here because this was awesome today. Uh RST ST here. This rate, like this is the market. I deployed this one. Like you can just come, click a few, like do a few clicks, select the parameters you want, and deploy a new feed. That easy. Like that
yeah,
was super fast. I actually did it today.
yeah,
So you can do the same, and then opportunities for these OEB open up, right? So
yeah,
it's opening up an interesting market.
yeah.
And am I
It's
done here?
commissions. No, you want to switch to the
Commissionless.
OEV network and you want to report that you updated the actual feed. Otherwise, you
Oh,
get slashed. Yeah.
oh, okay. So I
So
need
you
to
have like
switch here.
yeah, we've extended it right now, but usually you want to do that pretty instantaneously on the script and report the
Right,
update on the bottom, and
right.
then go ahead and okay
So
that.
I went to mode. I updated the price feed, paying
Mhm.
a little bit of fees, on mode, and then I came back to OEB to commit, like to say, like, hey, this actually happened.
Cool.
There we
And
go.
so now you're good. It's been reviewed. Your stake is back. You're ready to rock. You can bid again with that same amount of stake, no slashing. Everything's been good. You're looking good.
Epic.
So now you've just updated the Oracle. The only thing that you didn't do was run the liquidation to take advantage of that
That
update.
was right. That was my question. Just now I lost money. I was just a good guy and being like, hey, I'll update
Yeah.
this price feed, right? But
Yep.
if I had a liquidation opportunity where I would make, I don't know, let's say zero point 0.1 ETH, like to make it easier,
Hmm.
the bid that I placed and the amount that I can win with that liquidation is all my profit, right? So
Yes.
it's
Correct.
all down to those calculations you mentioned between local and the network and being like, I need to figure out my bid price and the price that I need to update Ethereum and when the liquidation is happening. And
Yep.
combining all of that, if I'm good at it, then I'll make money.
100%. You got
Okay,
it.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of like the goal of what we're doing with the workshops, right? Is basically giving you all the tools that you need, letting you decide on, a basic script, and then letting you decide how you're going to run your backend, right? Is it going to be on Rust, Python? You can use ChatGPT to get a basic one, and just start doing liquidations. But now with the ability to deploy your own borrow lending app, you can play with it at home, and then just see how you can do that. That's kind of like the next workshop coming up.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And this playground is great because like even though I kind of understood the steps, it's so nice to see it step by step in a UI so
Yep.
that then you can bring this back to code and decide how you're gonna do it.
Yes. So
So
I'm going to share
nice.
my screen again. We're actually going to go into like the script.
I'll
So that was like
I'll go to
on the user
here.
interface, right? Yeah. And
Great,
and
great.
kind of take
I
you
I
step by
was I
step.
was worried. I want to tell people that I was worried because you told me I had to do something.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's gonna get me live coding right now, doing complex stuff. I'm not ready. But
Yeah.
that was awesome. That was super simple and super
Yeah.
clear. So yeah.
Super, super easy. Okay. So again, on that same link, we have the OEV starter script. And so is this viewable, a good size overall?
Yep, I think it
Okay.
is. I'll remove myself some
Okay.
more screen,
And
but
so
yeah.
we use hard hat. I know a lot of people like Foundry, but JavaScript makes it easier to do so, and like it's just easier for me to run up. So we have a hard hat version. Um, what you're going to look here is you're going to have everything kind of built in, ready to go. It has interfaces, has some contracts in here for Open Zeppelin. The only thing you really need to focus on is the multi-call and the auction house. We like to make things really, really simple. We don't like, I just want you to drive. I want you to be a searcher, right? I don't need you to understand the auction house other than you can deposit and withdraw from the auction house. I don't want you to be able to like tear up the engine to start. So we're keeping it super simple. So you'll see that it's just an import on here. And then we have multi-call. If you go back onto the OEV Network workshop links, there is a whole repo on multi-call, because that took me a little while to learn too. And you'll see that this repo is live for you. So take the time to learn about multi-call. I even have a video walkthrough of it too, because I'm like, okay, what is this all about? And basically takes you through the code. So it's a skill that you will want to learn for different things, not just liquidations. And I made a little animation for this, right? So every time we make a call on, let me just move this out of the way. Every time we make a call, like using like Alchemy or some kind of, RPC call MetaMask, we're making a call contract to a smart contract. I want to read the status of something. I want to read the health factor, right? Every time we do that, that's one call for every RPC, right? So like, we get free ones for the most part, but then you get like timed out for any front end devs, right? You have a bad use effect and it goes over and over. So you'll see that like every time you do a call, that's like one call. Maybe you get 100 calls, or maybe you get 1,000 calls, and then you're timed out. So what multi-call lets us do is lets us send out a one call and read multiple contacts, right? And then it sends all the data back in a single call. So I can read like maybe just really quick off the top, 12 different contracts, get the data update, and then read that back onto me. Those are set in bytecodes. I know there's a lot of talk about the new EOF standard of making like bytecode easier to read, but multi-call contract works in bytecode, and Ethers can dissect it. But just the scope is like, this is how you save on RPC calls, or this is how you do multiple transactions in a single call, is through multi-call contract. So the way we're using it today, or how you would use it in the future, is you would use multi-call to read all the health positions on different borrow lending apps. So I have like this GIF animation. This is also in the video on there of being able to read each one individually. So I don't want to go and read each one over and over again, because like I'd be having a huge bill for all my RPC calls. So I'm going to use the searcher multi-call contract, give me all the health factors of all the positions, and then I can read it back, right? And then for our purposes, what we're doing for this here is we are now getting all our transactions, update price feed, perform the flash loan, perform, the liquidation. And that multi-call contract goes into the sequencers, updates the price, goes to the flash loan contract, and then does a liquidation, right? So this is what the multi-call uses for. And so we've made one for you already. You don't really have to modify it, right? It's kind of ready to go. Don't mind the squiggly line. It's a bug on my Windows. But basically what it does is it basically goes through a loop of all your transactions, takes the array of all your transactions that requires the address, what kind of functions you're going to call, and if you need to send any values, because you have to pay the API3 server for your bit update. So if you need to send anything, so it's going to go through the address, what functions do you want to do, and just loop through them in that single call. And then if you want to get into details, definitely check out the repo. I cover it all step by step with the bytecode and breaking down with the bytecode and like Swiss Army knife, I think, or Swiss Army to decode bytecode to make it a little bit more readable friendly. But those are the smart contracts that we have to deploy. So every chain that you want to do OEV on, you have to deploy multi-call on that chain, because you need a way to do the multiple transactions on Mode. You need the way to do multiple transactions on ETH. So you need your own multi-call. And for those that have looked at multi-call 3, it's public, but when you get the money back and you win the liquidation, you don't want someone to front run your multi-call. So we have the ownable function. So this is your multi-call, so you can pull the
That
dApp out.
was
Go
that
for
was
it.
my question. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we have a multi-color mode like for
Yeah.
quite some time, and a lot of teams use it. Right. I haven't thought of that, so
Yeah.
it's better to have your own for that case. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Important detail. Yeah.
Okay. So these are the only things that you need. And we only have the auction house for the AVI script. So when it compiles, it comes down and then multi-call. If you look at the hard hat config, it's very, very simple. We have this thing called API DPI management. It basically has all the chains that we've ever deployed on ready to go. We are predeterministic. So like if you look at the QR code with the GitHub, that has the links that have all the deployments on here. So you can look at every chain for every deployment we have. You'll see that a lot of them are the same because we use the create to function, but it just makes it easier. So you can locate each one by the chain ID. So if there ever is an update, it'll reference this and it'll go by the chain ID. So unless the chain ID changes, you're pretty safe with the script on there, but we just kept it super simple on there for your configuration. And so also in the package.json, we have these scripts. So you can kind of just go with it. It's basically yarn deploy multi-call, yarn deposit collateral like we did in the OEV script. And then the meat of this whole thing, submit bid and update. So those are the scripts that we have here. We just put it into a yarn script so you don't have to like type in npx hard hat, run scripts and all that. So really, really easy to use. So now that we understand multi-call and we have to deploy it, let's go ahead and get into the scripts and break it down piece by piece. So the first one is deploy multi-call. All we're doing is deploying a contract to our local chain, right? So it has the JSON RPC provider, which is our target network. If I do the example EMV, we have like this mnemonic words. We use mnemonics instead of private keys, just because the ability to do it multi-wallet, instead of doing private keys and typing in different private keys, if you have a mnemonic, you can generate new wallets on the fly. If you really, really want a private key, you can kind of modify it, but mnemonic's kind of easier where to go. The OEV network RPC is this. It's pretty standardized, so you don't have to really change it. It's right there in the example. And then the target network that you want to go. So I have it here for Mode Network. And so this will be the RPC call that you would use. If you have your own private one that you can use for better RPC calls, go ahead and use your own. But all we're going to do is basically it's going to say, hey, you want to deploy it on Mode Network. It's going to get a seed phrase from base 0 on the mnemonic, and then a classic deploy. It's going to basically build it out, deploy it out, and it's going to save the deployments over our local file so it can reference it later for our script. So let's go ahead and just deploy it on Mode. I've already funded my wallet and I've already tested it out, but let me go ahead and yarn deploy multi-call.
Cross fingers.
Yeah. And let's see if I have enough money on there. I should. It's pretty cheap. Let's go. And so boom, our OEV multi-call has been deployed to this address right here. And then you'll see that I have a deployment.json, and this will be where my multi-call address is. And it'll just reference that from the scripts here on out. So we have that, and it's just there. It's ready to go. So our multi-call is ready to go for whatever we need. And then we have our deposit collateral. Basically, remember on the OEV playground, let me go ahead and go back to that really quick. And then go back here. We're in this part right here, deposit. In this step, we need to put some money in the OEV auction house in order to make bids, right? And I've already bridged it, and to save time, it just takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes for it to all settle. But now we just want to deposit our collateral. And so basically it's going to reference, the OEV network. We may have to make sure that we have ETH there. It's going to go into the OEV auction house. And then it's going to say, hey, what are the contract addresses? Remember, we had all the addresses on that list. We're using OEV network, which is 493. And then just kind of building out the object, right? Some simple setup, address, ABI, and then who the signer is going to be. And we're going to process a very, very small amount because that's all we want to bid. And I do this workshop too many times, so I'm going to run out of ETH. This is actually on mainnet. And so we're just going to call the deposit function and for our amount, and it's going to let us know that we've deposited. So I'm going to go ahead and do yarn deposit collateral. And wait for that to go through. And we go. Now I've deposited 0.0001 ETH into the OEV auction house. I can now run bids, right? So far, so good.
All good here. Perfect.
Okay.
You're basically following the steps that we did in the UI, right?
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
Boom. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's why the UI is a little bit better to like see it like, okay, this is the flow, right? And so now we are
Yep.
in the now that we have a bid in here. Oops. Let me click on that. Let me go back to the playground. Now we are at the place bid. And so with this script, so that's why basically submit, bid up, and execute update. We're going to do all three of these things at the same time. So these are the next steps here, section by section. And
Perfect.
so you'll see that we have our imports. The team decided to use each import individually instead of just using ethers, star ethers. And so now you can use one each specifically, just keeps the package a little bit smaller. We have our contracts that are deployed, which are the API3 contracts, which is that same list that I showed you a little bit earlier. It's going to reference our deployment.json, which is this multi-call contract on Mode. And then we're using .env for our private keys and signers and everything. And so just to minimize this, we're going to keep it really, really simple. Place bid, perform OEV update, report fulfillment, and a few minor details on here. So the current auction house needs something called a bid topic. Currently, the bid topic is all the same. So it just returns a bytecode for this value. It's basically letting you know that the bid is valid and it's coming out from our unique user and it's looking to do on this version of the auction house. The bid topic could change to chain and price oracle at some time and then do a small calculation. But at this current time, this is all you need. So it just basically returns this value on here. So there's really nothing you have to change. The bid details. This has all the details that you want to do. So like it's going to get the price address, so ETH USD, we call them proxy addresses. So those are the price feeds, ETH USD, RAT BTC USD, Mode USD. The condition, is it going to be less than or greater than whatever price? Our condition value, how much are we willing to bid on this value? And then who is going to be updating the price feed on the layer 2 chain, right? So this is going to be our multi-call contract. Our multi-call contract is going to request it. So we're going to send it from our EOA or a wallet. It's going to go to the multi-call contract, and then the multi-call contract is the one that's going to be doing the update and the liquidation at the same time. Because we have to have a random, like a different bid every time, we use Hexify to just do a couple random bytes to add a little bit of salt at the end of it, just to mix it up. That way there's no exact same bid for the same price. So far, so good. This is just a
Oh,
function that we're going to call for the bid details.
and so everyone don't like whoever's tuning right now, or if you got lost in the middle, you have the link in the comment section in the description as well. You have this whole repo, so you can clone it and have all the code ready. There you
Yeah.
go. All the
OEV
resources are
stickers.
there.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we're just explaining these resources so you can go back later on, chill, run everything on your own,
Yeah.
and see how this works, and then modify it. So yeah, that perfectly fine for now.
Okay.
Thank you, Bailey.
Of course. So now here we're actually going to do our place bid function, right? And here's where all the details matter. So what is the proxy address? What address do we want to update? So we're going to go over to market. Let me just go over here. Market API3. Oops. Market API, the APIs. We're going to go over to mode. I'm going to go ahead and go ETHUSD, just right here. And so we see that it has your latest price update, so it hasn't changed. We're going to integrate. This is the proxy address we want to update right here. This address. This is how we get the price feed for ETHUSD. This is the price update that we want to update here particularly. So I'm going to grab this proxy address from mainnet, and I'm going to paste it right down here. right here. So this is the price. I did it before, so that's why it's here. All right. And so now we know that's it. So now we're going to go here and type in our chain ID, which is basically, let me just change that to mode. And so chain ID 34443, that's mode network. How much are we willing to bid? Right, is going to be our bid price. I just added another zero to our deposit. So that way we have 10% of what it is. We're going to win this. And then our bid conversion, is it going to be less than or greater than whatever price, right? This is the price we calculated in our head and our compute, saying, okay, these liquidation thresholds are at this price or that price. For now, we're just going to say it's going to be less than or equal to 3,000, right? And we can make it $5, depends, whatever you want, whatever. But this is your liquidation price point that you want to do for your liquidations. Here, we're just building in objects, right? Same thing. We're building our OEV network provider because we want to bid on there. We're going to put our signer off there, building our artifacts. That's why we have that smart contract here. So when it compiles, we have the artifacts that can read, and we build it into this nice callable, object called OEV auction house, right? And so basically, we run the script, right? So we get the bid topic, which we know is this bid topic right here. So that's a default standard. And then we get our bid details and we pass all our details in there, right? So we're passing in our ETH-USD on mode, the proxy address, the bid condition, which we just typed over here. What's our condition? What's our bid price? How much are we willing to bid on this value? And then who is going to update the oracle, right? That's our multi-call address. And then we're doing some random padding at the end of it to just make it each bid unique. So that's the bid details. So we're just building that bid details that we just made this little function for. So it puts it in a nice, bytecode fashion for us.
I got a little question for you.
Yes.
So, why do we need to make each bit a little bit different? Is it for the network so that ours is unique versus others that may have the same parameters? Or,
Correct. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. It
okay,
just adds a little salt. So every transaction you do is different. It's just adding a little random to it. Because if by some chance it's randomly the same, then it becomes problematic. It'll get stuck. So to avoid any issues with a bad bid, like if you were bidding on $1 million profit and then it just randomly didn't work because of some randomness wasn't there, you you'd
yeah,
go crazy, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And do you think that could be added from API3 side, or like adding a random bid for every bid that's out there, or is that like can the user use it for something else and adding random bits in there? So like my MEV signature, something like that. Hey, this is
uh
fed. Look at the random bytes here or
I
something.
mean, you'll see it by the deployer or the updater
All
on
right,
there. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
That it's
it makes more
basically,
sense.
these are just the bids. These aren't the transactions that happen on chain. These are the bids that happen on the auction house.
Okay,
So the
okay, that
auction
makes
house
sense.
needs to have unique ones. Yeah. So like when you do the transaction, they're gonna know, oh, this is fed this multi-call contract that's happening
Right.
on chain. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. So don't forget the random bytes, please.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's already there for you, and it's
Oh
on the
yeah,
configure. Yeah.
I was gonna ask as well. Where else can I read about this? Like, is there documentation on these objects, like how to build the bead and the things that I need to fill? Is all
Yes.
in the GitHub link that you shared?
Yes, on the OEV network. So, like, if you go to like API3.org and OEV on there, there's also links to the docs directly on that GitHub repo that I have with all the links in there ready to go. Yeah,
Spectacular.
yeah. So now that we've built up, our artifact, we've built out our bid details, everything, we have everything. Now we're going to go ahead and actually place our bid. We can place two ways: place our bid with expirations or place it without expirations. Why you would not want to do it without an expiration date, we don't know, but we have the option there. Basically, we're going to say, all right, here's our bid topic, which you already built before. We're putting in our chain ID, which we already set already for mode. We're doing our bid amount, and then all the return bytecode of the bid details that we kind of generated from this function. So it's a nice long function call. The collateral base points is set to max. Everything on this auction house is set to max. So you have to put your most collateral in there. So that 10% plus slashing. And then the fees are set to max. If we might have a discount for fees, we may, but right now, most of it is going back to the DApp anyway. And then we have the date. So the expiration time for this bid would be 12 hours from now. You can change it to whatever you want, depending on your searcher optimistic settings, right? If you feel the market's happening, or if your bot can detect market movements faster than mine can, you have a shorter bid time. So depending on how you want, we basically, once we place this bid, we look for the transaction, and then we're going to go ahead and compute the bid ID. So once we have our bid, we're going to have a bid ID so that we can listen to see if we won. And so it requires an encoding of KECAC or KECHAC, depending on how anybody sees it. And then it basically has our OEV network address, our wallet address, the bid topic that we set, and then all our bid details that we just created here as well. So basically it's reusing a lot of the information to say, hey, this is our bid. I need to have the bid ID so then I can listen on the front end or my script to make sure that I've won or I've lost or what, so I know what to do next. And it just requires this encoding on here in order for the smart contract to relay it back to you. Let me minimize that. And so if we win, we're basically creating awarded transactions. If we win, we're going to listen for it. So we're just waiting for that bid to be awarded. We have our listener waiting. It's going to go to the filters to make sure that it goes to the awarded bid. And then if we won, it's basically going to say bid awarded. It's going to get the block number. It's going to query the filters to see what our winning signature is. This right here is the signature that says, okay, you won the bid. This is the multi-call address that's going to be able to update the Oracle. This is the information that you're going to pass along on the layer 2 that you're doing this on. So this just basically listens, grabs the information, grabs the signature, and says, okay, you won it. Here's the signature. Use this information on the layer 2 that you're going to do it in your multi-call contract.
So this is the object that has all the information and the permission for you to do that stuff. So this is
Yes.
basically a network telling you, hey, you won. Here's
Yes.
all the information and yeah, and all the
Yeah.
stuff you need to actually execute that.
We're filtering out based on our bid topic and our bid ID. So if our bid ID doesn't hit the awarded bid event call out from the OEV network, then we didn't win. And so we know that we lost in a sense. Now we could set more listeners to say, hey, if you lost or whatever, but we have 12 hours to listen in to see if we won or not. But to keep it simple and to keep this just for trial, we just have the awarded bid, and then it gives us all the details of what it is. But basically it's querying the filter of like, okay, we won. What's the signature? Send that back to our awarded transaction so then I know I can use this for my
And
transaction.
if you don't win, do you get any information on that, or you just get a not like a it's only a topic like you subscribe just to get the ones you won?
Well, the awarded bid would go to another bid ID, and then you would just shut it down
Right,
another way. Yeah, yeah. So you would
right,
listen for a couple more event listeners to make sure that your bid didn't win, and then you just set a new bid or whatever you need to do. But for
right.
simplicities, I'm only doing it for award bidded to keep it
Oh,
more
for
digestible. Yeah, yeah,
100%. I'm
yeah,
just, my brain is going, okay, where are the places where I need to start adding logic and thinking,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
then if I'm not getting any awarded bids, then I need to see where my non-awarded ones went, who
yeah,
won, why they won, start
yeah.
doing more analytics on that. That's
So
perfect.
there's more details in the link where I have the OEV auction house.sol. I have that laid out for you. So then you can look at all the events that go out there so you can do it. And also how to withdraw from the OEV network too.
Epic.
Okay.
Nice.
And so now that we have our awarded transaction, right, we're going to go ahead and perform the OEV update, which is this function right here with our signature, right? And so here is where we're going to do it on Mode network, right? So we're going to make sure that we are on Mode. Why do I have this mantle here? One second. Let me put that in there. Mode net. So I have the ID, and then we're going to do our bid amount. This is how much I bid. So I have to pay this much in ETH in order to actually do this, because if I don't pay the fee, I can't update the price, right? And so I set these up for my variables, and then I actually call the OEV with multi-call. I'm reading my multi-call that I have deployed here. So I'm creating my object. And then again, I'm doing this for Mode network. I'm doing my signature that I'm going to send this over to. Again, referring to my address, my multi-call artifact, and then my target network wallet, which is this seed phrase signer. And then here's where the magic happens right here. This is where the multi-call comes into play. We're going to update our transactions, right? So we're going to call our multi-call with value function, right? It's going to call the API3 contract chain ID. Remember, we have all those chain ID deployment addresses. Each layer 2 has an API3 contract that handles the proxy price updates. That's also what takes the value. So we're going to call this and say, hey, we have this signature that we want. We want to update the price feed. And that's where this signature here, the awarded transaction right here, that we won from listening that bid, we're sending this whole function. We don't modify the function. We just send it right over. And we're sending the bid amount value over to the API3 server. In this same multi-call, if we were doing something, the next thing I would do, it's an array of transactions. I would do the contract of the borrow lending. lending. Let me put lending here, and then my functions to liquidate, liquidate function. And this is all happening in bytecode, right? And then we would also have approvals, if we were paying back a token or anything. But this is how you bulk in the multi-call within the array of transactions, right? So don't mind, I totally missed this array right here, but you get what I'm saying.
That's
Like I'm
yeah,
bulking
yeah,
in all the addresses, I'm bulking in all the transactions, and I'm bulking in any values that I have to pay in this multi-call transaction on here. And it's all happening with an array. So then it loops through each transaction in that same call. So it all happens in the same block. So far, so good.
perfect.
Yeah.
So far, so good. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And so then I'm sending this out. I wait for the transaction, and then we're going to find out that the Oracle update has been performed. So the only thing we're doing on this multi-call is one transaction, and we're just doing that Oracle update, same way we were doing it on the playground. And then we have to let them know, hey, I did update it. So we go back to the OEV network, right? We go and rebuild this, object again with the OEV network, and then say, hey, this is the contract address on OEV, and here's the bid details that we have encoded, and we report back that we did do our bid topic. Here is the hash that proves that we did it, and
Hmm.
then we're going to go ahead and update the transaction hash, and it's going to report us and say, hey, it's been updated. We've confirmed the fulfillment, and we're going to we're going to listen to the auction house saying, hey, are we all good? And it's going to basically listen, saying, all right, you've done it, you're good. And then we start over again, and we win the bid. We do another auction, we do another Oracle, look for another opportunity, and we just keep going when there's volatility. And so let's go ahead and do that all real time right now. And so one tool that I did want to like go out and show you guys as soon as I get rid of all these windows that I have opened up here is this comparison dashboard, right? It's like, well, where are we calculating certain things? Where are we getting this data of like, what the real value is on there? So let me go ahead and go to the dashboard, go to the chains. So we have an internal dashboard that we use here that anybody can play with to look at what the price feeds of a certain asset are at any given time, right? Again, we have the price feed that we have on chain on the marketplace, but again, like it's a 1% deviation. So we basically are checking every minute on the minute on here of like what other oracles are using, what our servers reporting, what data is actually signed on chain, and are we within range or whatnot. So we have people monitoring this like 24/7. Like oracles, right? Security is like our number one thing. And so the biggest concern is like, hey, with this OEV thing, how does it work? Do we have to refactor our code? We have $1 million at risk. And that, like, everybody's concerned about it because it's such a new topic, but this is all ready to go. Liquidations will happen regardless of OEV. There's no special things that you have to do for it. All we're doing is giving you the fast lane for the most current price of it. So whether you do a bid or not, it will happen regardless, right? So there's nothing that's special out of the box because we designed the oracles from the ground up from like a year and a half ago with the white paper. Like it's been designed. So like we didn't have to like, hey, let's add another feature on this. The feature was built into the oracle. So what we're
Right.
looking right here is the actual sign data of 2302 on Mode. That's what you did right here at 10:05 my time at some point, or whatever UTC time. And so you see that was the last signature that you did. But the current price on the API3 server is 297. So it's been a difference, but not within that 1% deviation. So if I were to sign it, this would be the most current price. And we're making sure that everything's all within range. Like, is everything kosher with everybody else of what they have on chain? So here you can say, okay, this is the real price that I would update it for. That way I know what I'm shooting for. So like it's not like I'm making, oh, this thing's liquidatable at $2,290. I can't just say let's make that price, right? I can only pull whatever the signage price is, like whatever is
Oh,
coming up.
of course. I was
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you on the security. You know the it's funny. People that are usually not very security oriented, when they hear about something super new and innovative, they get excited. The
Yes.
security people, whenever they hear something new, they get panic. It's like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, I don't know. But
Yeah.
for what you're saying and everything and the mechanisms that are here is basically like I am not telling the Oracle which is the price that should get updated, right? I'm just telling it to update it, right?
Yes.
I'm not the one sending the actual price. I'm not telling it, hey, this is the price of ETH USDC. I'm just saying, hey, I need an update right now. I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna pay maybe a little bit more than the rest, and I need to do it now so
Yep.
that then I can. take advantage of this opportunity that was already there that has
Yes.
nothing to do with this network. So
Correct.
that's why I'm not like ultra concerned on the actual security. Maybe there are some flaws, but it's gonna be inside the bidding market, right?
Yeah.
If there are any, or if there's any security issues, but it as what you've explained today and what I understand, it shouldn't affect like the broader
Yeah.
price
Yeah.
of the asset of the
Yeah.
price feed.
So
Yeah,
it's kind of like a fast lane, right? Like instead of waiting for it, you're just getting the fast lane for the latest Oracle on there. So like there's no way you can modify that price. So, like that's what a lot of people get concerned for. Like, oh, EV, wait a minute, what do are you pulling a random number? It's like, no, you see the opportunity, you see that the price is within that range, you bid it and you fast lane it down on there. So like, and
right.
whatever people are willing to bid, because you're using API3 oracles, whatever someone was willing to bid for that price, you're getting that value in there. So like if I'm willing to bid 1,000 ETH to make this happen, well, that's you're going to get a large share of that back to you. Yeah. So
Totally.
I went to market that API3. I got the ETHUSD from Mode 2302. I hit integrate. I went to the proxy contract address. I went to Mode. I went to the contract itself, and I'm just reading the value right here, 2302, right? So I'm reading this contract right now. So we're going to go ahead and run the update on here. We're going to run that script, and let me just move it up. And let me go ahead and yarn, submit, bid, update. Let me make sure I spell that all right. There we go. Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to take it through the console log and do the whole thing. So now it's going to go run through the script. We're going to submit our bid. We're going to see if we win. And then so I did the transaction hat, waiting for the bid to be awarded. Bid has been awarded. And so now what I have to do is basically run this on Mode. Oracle update has been performed. It's been reported and waiting for confirmation of fulfillment on the OEV network. And then once I hear back from the OEV network saying that, we are all good, then I'm good with my slash here. And
Good
then just while
console
we're waiting for
logs.
that, boom, right there. And
Epic.
so we're
There we
done.
go.
So we're all done. So you see, way faster than doing it on the wizard. It all
Oh,
happens
for
really
sure.
quickly,
Yeah.
And like as the fancy searchers and everything, they have this happening for multiple oracles on multiple liquidations, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
if I read
and this is
back,
async, right? Like we're
yeah,
just showing like one thread of like one bit, but yeah, this
yeah,
can be scaled and
yeah.
really complex. Yeah.
And you see, like when I
Nice.
read the smart contract, it's 2,297.3 based on that API3 server signer call. If I go back to Centurion, it's that, let me sync it up
I
again.
hope we're not causing liquidations for people here updating the or
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry
now
if we
2007. Yeah. And so now it's been signed out. Now we're ready to go.
epic.
And then if we go back into here, 2,297. So it's live, updated, ready to go. What you do with
Nice.
that opportunity is totally up to you. That's totally up to you and the OEV network. You have the script ready to go. Like I didn't do any modifications other than making it adjustments for my chain and the chain ID, which we have already on the links again. But yeah, I'm excited to see what people come up with on there. There's been a lot of ideas that you know I've come up with some of the team have come up with is kind of like imagine we I kill my presentation. Imagine if there was a dashboard that let like random people that didn't run scripts run liquidations, right? Like how much are you willing to bid to liquidate this position? And degens can run it themselves, right? And so I'm willing to bid 10 ETH to make 11, right? So I'm willing to bid 10 ETH to make one back. And it basically opens up liquidations and OEV, like MEV on layer twos for like almost everybody that doesn't have to be non-technical. So there's a lot of opportunity that can happen this because this simple script can update the price feed, that can run liquidations, that can run flash loans on the back end. Something that I've been kind of working on here and there for hackathon ideas and having dashboards to see what opportunities there are. We're building TVL, and TVL actually has a meaning now, right? Before, like Oracle has a TVL, is like, well, that means absolutely nothing to me.
Yeah.
But TVL is
Yeah.
now is like, okay, there's TVL here. That means that's how much value I can possibly liquidate and then kind of give back on there on layer twos. So that actually has certain value right now. So you're curious
No,
to
and
see how builders go.
yeah, for sure. And it's actually innovation. Like there's a lot of talks around how is MEV going to look like in L2s
Hmm.
when we have decentralized sequencers. How is that going to behave? Like, are we going to have the same issues? It's going to be different.
Yeah.
Um, so I know that MEV on Ethereum is pretty managed by like a few big players, but
Yeah,
now that we have a lot more ecosystems, new mechanisms like OEV, and more things popping up,
yeah,
you have a great chance. Even if you're a random developer somewhere, you don't need a big infrastructure to be running like, millisecond transactions and improving things to the max. This way you can go to a new network, see that there's value there, and maybe get some earnings out of OEV.
yeah.
That's super interesting. And even getting some money back to the DApps that will see who gets more creative and who manages to incentivize this in the best way.
Correct.
So yeah, it's opening a lot of doors, and I like that. You
Yeah.
know.
It's again a new frontier. It's a lot of new information for people to swallow in there because MEV is
Yeah.
hard enough on its own. Bytecode reading is hard enough on its own. Then adding this like complexities of like what it is. So like when we built the DAPIs from the ground up, a lot of people were like, do I have to adjust my code to take advantage of it? Do I need to do it? Nope. You just use the oracles. That's literally all you have to do. And if someone liquidates you to bid the update, you get a share of that feed. So that's pretty cool. And we have people using our feeds on Mode Network and just saying, just letting you guys
Oh,
know. Yeah,
you'll see. I know for a fact that there's at least two teams that are excited to get this value back and
yeah,
and start using it. So we'll see how it develops. Like I'm
yeah,
excited to see how it works
yeah,
in reality.
yeah,
Great. We're a little bit over the hour, but I think it was worth it. This is great content and actually a really good help for devs looking for something new, especially if you wanna try and make some money with it. And yeah, maybe scripting a bit, improve it however you want. You have the repository, you also have the documentation and the API3 website. So feel free to go, basically check everything. The question I always ask, Billy, if I go to the documentation, I've tried the GitHub repo and I still have questions and I want to shout at you and be like, please help me. Where do I go? How do I do that?
the Discord link is in the repo that I sent out as well, so that you can click on there. There's a specialized OEV section. You can always hit me up on Twitter. I'm always pretty around, pretty responsive on there. If not, tag me in the mode chat, you know, and I'll definitely help you on there too. Yeah, but yeah, pretty approachable. I know I'm a meanie sometimes on the internet, but I'm nice. Yeah,
100%. I can
yeah,
vouch for you. I know you're nice and you're
yeah,
responsive. So yeah, there you go. The Discord has a special channel for you guys asking about this. If
yeah,
not, reach out to Billy. And if you
yeah,
have no idea and you cannot navigate the internet and you have my contact, let me know and I'll connect you with them
yeah,
as well. So yeah, with that said, thank you very much. This was super informative. I'm happy to have placed a bit and actually did something on this
yeah,
workshop that was exciting. And yeah, excited to see if we'll have you again here or not.
yeah, yeah.
But this was super fun, and thank you very much, Billy, for all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Third workshop is basically the borrow lending DApp. So we're getting into
Right,
DeFi, how to like learn how to deposit, how to stake, learning health factors, how to degen on that, and then
I
we'll
love
we'll
that.
probably
We
split
could
that up a little
prepare.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, we can prepare something
Yeah.
for that as well,
Yeah.
something special, because we've been talking about a lot of this DeFi developer roadmap and what things you need as a developer to get into DeFi. So that's going to be a great one.
Yep.
Again, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.
All right. Catch you later.
See ya.